Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This mega show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 2 premiere of Call of the Night. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I wanted to watch the intro a couple more times, but I can't tell if that's like Anko or whether that's Nazuna's past. It seemed like there might have been a new character introduced in the intro because it looked like, couldn't tell because some of the pictures are black and white, but I think like it showed her partially in color. I think her hair looked pinkish, so it might be a completely different character. But I brought it up last episode about Anko and Nazuna. It's interesting because I didn't really pay as much attention to it in the first intro, but if you look at it, like when you're at the end of the intro and you're seeing all the different characters, but they're in color, the one characters that are just like shadowy colors is Anko and Nazuna, because I guess they're supposed to be like two sides at opposite ends of this whole situation, and I guess you can find Ko kind of smack down in the middle in a way. But obviously this intro also reflects that, where it's like, it's a lot around Anko, because, in fact, her and Nazuna duking out. And that's why I wonder, like, do they in particular have a past? Because Nazuna said she'd been a vampire for decades. I don't think she ever went specific. I think she specifically said decades, if I'm remembering correctly. So, but once again, if the anime is relatively modern to even if you were just to be like, okay, the manga started in like 2021, so when did the manga actually start? Sorry, let's say that the series is set in 2018, 2019, because 2019 is when it started getting published. So that's still like the 80s and 90s, so some of those flashbacks still could have been Nazuna. We didn't get a good look at everything to really be able to properly tell, but once again, I'd have to go look. I only watched the intro once, so I'd have to look through it again to see like whether that was like Anko or Nazuna and like a young before being, because it was, some of those shots were from daytime, so it would have been Nazuna before she turned into a vampire. Either way, I'm kind of focusing on the intro, but getting into the actual episode itself, and it's funny where we left Nazuna and Ko. It's like, right, they made their big declaration of like, she's gonna make Ko fall in love with her, and Ko is gonna fall in love with her. But what do we find them doing? Kind of working towards that, but not really. It's just them doing what they've always done, which is in part is leading to that. Is the whole just them playing video games, and then they get interrupted by Nico and Hasuka, and so now Nico grabs up Ko and takes her to hang out with the others, whereas Hasuka takes Nazuna, because it's like, right, you wanna talk about stuff, right? So let's start off with Nico and the others and Ko, and they're like, okay, so tell us what's going on between you and Nazuna. We're just here trying to support your love. And Ko's like, oh, good, sweet. He's like, I thought you guys were just gonna like use me as fodder for you to like gossip about as you drink. And they're like, oh my god, he's on to us. And then it's like, yeah, he's like, I really hate when people do stuff like that. And she's like, I'm sorry, Ko, but it's like, you are kind of our entertainment, the romance of it all, the young teenage love. They really get off to that, especially because Ko talks about the fact is he's never really obviously had a first love or first crush. All of that is Nazuna, which they're even like, oh, that's actually kind of sweet that your first love will be the one that turns you if it all works out, which they're, under the belief and hope that that's the case. Obviously, Midori's taking this a little harder because like she, like the others aren't tripping over the rejection as much. To be fair, she's the only one that was like fully outright rejected, but even Ko doesn't fully look at it as a rejection, but it's like he did say no to her, and now she's kind of like upset about that. And it's like, I mean, this is probably like maybe like the next night after the season 1 finale, or maybe like a night later, or a couple nights later, whatever the case may be. It hasn't been that long since season 1's finale. In fact, later on, to kind of put in perspective how much time has passed since essentially the beginning of this series, it's basically been 2 months, because Natsuno was like, yeah, you got 10 months left. So kind of puts things in an interesting time frame to let you know like exactly how much time has passed, like at least like in totality from the first season's beginning to where we are right now. But I think for Ko, it's really nice to have like a support team that's just kind of like cheering you on and stuff like that. I mean, hell, even series like Ayo, like I could always make you like one of my offsprings like Akun, but then like I think it was Midori being like, no, he could easily be mine because Ko is her type. They say like a frustrated male virgin is kind of her type, so it's like, so she kind of wants to make Ko her own, but it's like, well, once again, Nazuna's got dibs, and they want to, they want to see how things are really progressing. It's like, oh, like, what do you find cute about Nazuna? It's like, her face. And it's like, do you tell her that? He's like, no. They're like, well, you should tell her once a day. And even he says later on, kind of like, should I? Is that what? Because he doesn't know how to really operate on that front. Like, it is a thing of you should tell your significant other. I think a good rule of thumb is to be like, tell them how beautiful or handsome they are. I think that can go a long way. I mean, you don't want to cheapen it by making it seem like, oh, you're just saying it just to say it. I mean, if you mean it and believe it, I think the sincerity will come through. But I think it's nice to at least throw that compliment out there just to let them know like they're appreciated. On the other side of things, Hasuka and Nazuna, it's like, she's like, Hasuka, it's like, you wanted to talk to me about romance, right? Because you want to find a way to kind of make Ko fall in love with you. Because Hasuka and Nazuna didn't have a chance to talk. I mean, it was mainly Nico talking to Nazuna at the end of last season, but they didn't really have like the conversation except for like, yo, this is what's going to go down. These are your consequences. You have to make Ko fall in love with you. That's going to be your retribution and the consequences of you asking us not to like basically kill him. But she didn't really have time to really talk to any of them. Now that she set her mind on making him fall in love with her, she's like, how do I kind of go about that? So Hasuka gives her clothes. It's like, right, the clothes you wear are fine, but it's like you're practically naked underneath. It's like, yeah, but you're basically in your underwear. But she's like, yeah, but it makes it easier to move around. She's like, yeah, I'm wearing this dress. It's like, yeah, it feels like, it's real breezy. And it's like, oh, you sound like a boy who's wearing girl clothes for the first time. And she's like, yeah, like, it's funny that you would say that. Hasuka's like, yeah, that's true. But yeah, they end up going out to, I think that's those same offsprings that were there. I think those are the same ones, at least 2 of the 3 we met last season, in the season 1 finale. But I think it's the same 2 girls, but I could be mistaken. Either way, they go out for drinking, and Hasuka kind of points out something interesting where she's like, your whole like lewd talk that you do, talking dirty, like that's all a cover, because truth be told is you're more into romance than anyone else. And Natsuna's like, no, you got it wrong, and she's getting all blushy and embarrassed because they had brought up the whole thing of like, I think Hasuka was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of getting turned on by you, can I like, I think he was like, can I kiss you or something like that. Oh yeah, that was another thing. They were like, oh, how often do you and Nico and the others had asked Ko like how often him and Nazuna kiss, and it's like, well, obviously it's like once in front of them. What was that, episode 8? And then like obviously in the season 1 finale, but there was like the small kisses, like when there was blood on his mouth and stuff like that. It's been a couple kisses here and there that we've seen at least on screen. But Hasuka's kind of like, okay, can I like kiss you or something like that? And she's like, no, why would I? It's like, yeah, because you're turning me on. It's like, oh, does that not happen with Ko? And it kind of made Natsuna go, wait, does Ko not find me attractive? It's like, whoa, like, and even Hatsuka was like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's like, she's like, yeah, but like when we went to the Love Hotel, like, was he getting turned on because of just the circumstance of being there with me, or was it just the environment that kind of made that happen? It's like, wait, you went to a Love Hotel? It's like, yeah, but for laughs. But then he was like, wait, like, was it fully for laughs? Like, maybe you really are a sucker for romance and you just don't want to admit it. And she's kind of like, no, and she's kind of feeling embarrassed, and she's basically drowning herself so she doesn't have to feel what she's feeling right now. Because it's like, Hatsuka literally says, you're not honest with your feelings. That's why you're like embarrassed the way you are. Like, you're really like hopeful you're a bit of a romantic yourself, but you bury it deep down inside and you don't know how to be honest with your feelings, which is a beautiful contrast with Ko, who's discovering his feelings. So it's like her learning to be a little more honest, him discovering, himself and being honest with himself. So it's interesting. And so she drinks herself to sleep, and then Ko ends up having to take her back. And he's walking with her. He's like, like, should I call you cute? He's like, I do think you're cute. Always. And Nazuna was coherent enough to hear that, which was really adorable. But then the next day, they're on the train, and she's trying to like goad Ko by being like, right, we only have a year or less than like that. We have 10 months, for you to like fall in love with me. And then she starts getting embarrassed. It's like, oh, you're the one that said it. But he's like, oh my God, Nazuno, you almost did it. Like, you're so close. I'm so proud of you. You're making a lot of progress that you almost was able to say that without breaking and having basically a near romance, like embarrassed induced breakdown every time you bring up something romance related. You almost made it. I'm so proud of you, Nazuna. But yeah, they end up hanging out in Tokyo, and I thought it was interesting because like Ko's perspective on it, it's like his issue is like, I hate it when people want to just come to Tokyo. They love Tokyo, but don't have like a reason to love Tokyo. Because he's like, yeah, I remember when we were in elementary school, there was a few of us going to a trip in Tokyo, but some of the other people are jealous. And he was like, I don't get it. You could literally get in a car and drive to Tokyo an hour. Like, what was so special about it? It's like, well, it's different. Well, obviously the excitement of, hey, we're getting to do it going to school. You're also young, so you don't have a concept of all of that. But it's also like, yeah, going to a school trip, like trip somewhere like different from your school, like during school hours, everyone loves that. But I thought it was interesting because Natsuna ends up slapping him because for her, it's like she has a very interesting relationship with Tokyo as well, because for her, it's a situation of she remembers coming to Tokyo years ago, and she was excited about the glim and glamour of it, but then like the problem was when she actually got there, it's like, oh, she felt lonely, she kind of got hit on, but she didn't think it was going to be fun, so she turned them down. But the difference now is she's come to Tokyo with Ko, so that makes all the difference in the world for her. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is kind of a nice spot now because you get to, because there is so much to do, but it's like if you don't have any plans and you're not going to do anything or have anyone to be with, like, of course it's going to be boring. And that doesn't have to just apply to Tokyo. That's anywhere. When you're with other people, when you have plans, that's when you get to do exciting and fun stuff. So we see them kind of shopping and doing their thing. But their main reason for here is like to watch a whole bunch of other couples. It's like, right, maybe seeing their romantic situations can inspire us and make us think about things. Because Ko's coming at it from a perspective too, while he's watching like some of like the guys like try to pick up on women. He's like, I get it, but he's also like, isn't that kind of messed up too? Like, and then like Natsuna's like, what are you implying? Like every guy that's hitting on a girl is immediately trying to get her in bed. Like that is like an interesting perspective to immediately have. Because in his mind, it's like he sees that as not like romance. He sees that just like, yo, you're trying to like hook up. Like he sees it as a hookup versus like legitimately trying to start a romance. But once again, you're coming from the perspective of this is all new to you. You really don't know a lot. You're learning kind of as you work through it yourself. Because it ends up being this conversation where Nazuna brings up like, yo, like a relationship that starts off physically can actually turn into something more. It's like, yeah, sure, you might have started off as like just a hookup thing, but eventually the more time you spend together, it can eventually build to you wanting to start an actual emotional and romantical relationship. Especially because she brings up the fact is that Ko and her have kind of been in that similar situation, because she's like, when you're drinking blood, like I said, like it's like food and substance, but it is also like sex practically. I made that clear the first time, I drank your blood. I made that parallel. And so you can make the argument our relationship started off as physical and we're trying to head towards an emotional one. In fact, she even says like, you can make the argument I'm the person that like hit on you first and you took the bait, essentially. But looking at all the different couples and it just being so natural and so easy for them, because Ko's thinking in his head, he's thinking like, he thought back to like Akiyama and Siri, and he had this whole thought of like, right, like typically like it'll be displayed as kind of like something dramatic has to happen. But he's also like, but real life, that doesn't necessarily always happen. In fact, he's like, you don't need something dramatic to happen for romance to happen. In fact, his takeaway, his light bulb moment is like, right, romance isn't something like, it's special in the regards of like, oh, it's something sweet and stuff, but it's something that anyone, like, it's not like you need some, oh my God, this crazy scenario to find yourself in. Romance, it's just such a basic thing that it isn't anything special. It's both special and it's special because of who you're with, the people, the person you fall for, and the person that maybe falls for you makes it special. But romance in its entirety is something just standard. It's not anything special. And I think that's, I feel like I'm contradicting myself, but hopefully you're getting what I'm trying to say. It's just the thing is he's overthinking it, like there has to be something grand and special about romance, but it's like, no, it is such a basic thing that can be special, but it isn't inherently special. The act of romance isn't special. And so I'm probably not wording that right. And I love that he's like, oh my God, Nazuna, like that's what you were trying to get across to me, to not put too much pressure on it, because what happens, because it's not that crazy of a thing. It doesn't need like a whole bunch of special requirements to unlock romance. It's like, it is, it just happens. And Nazuna's like, what? Yes, of course, that's exactly what I was planning. And so they end up going to the zoo afterwards, because Ko's like, oh, I don't have to particularly like the zoo, but it's like, yeah, I've never been here at night, so they're checking it out. I think it's interesting because I'm like, why weren't there any animals? Because they're looking all over the place, but they didn't see any animals, except for, I think it was like a kangaroo, but I don't think they were really focused on it. It's like the one animal was there, kind of pops out for a little bit, and then immediately kind of goes back. So, but yeah, they're having a conversation about like, right, because he's not too keen on Tokyo. It's like, do you like your hometown? And he's like, what does that actually mean? She's like, okay, so some people like to go places and other people just like to stay. And what about you? And he's like, well, I like to stay home. He's like, not particularly because I like my home or anything like that, but it's just like, yeah, he just feels more comfortable there. But for him, it's like, he's never really had a reason to really prefer a home over anywhere else, but now he does, because he's like, because that's where I met you and I get to hang out with you. And Nazuna's kind of like, yeah, that's a beautiful thing about it for her too. It's like, now she gets to hang out with him, they get to do a lot of stuff together. And but also it kind of ends on like this sweet note, but also a little sad note where he's like, hey, we can come back. Was it right? Sorry, forget it. He's like, I was about to say we should come back during the day, but then the title of the episode is, but that time's not for us. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of that sad thing of like, that is what it is. Like, he can never share in the daytime with her. That's a drawback to dating a vampire, but also, well, process of dating a vampire, but also like, if you become one yourself, like the daytime will always be lost to you. Once again, that's the conundrum of once you become a vampire, everything becomes boring. But like Ko said last season, it's about trying to find other things to do, make sure that things never get boring for either one of them. So just thought that was an interesting note to leave the episode off on. I did not watch the trailer for this season, so I have no idea what to expect. But obviously, we're probably going to get a lot more Anko this season periodically. It's going to be interesting to catch up with Mahiru, because we don't know if him and Ko have had that conversation since. Was that? I think, yeah, that was the season 1 finale, I believe. No, it was episode 12 of last season, of like that conversation of what do you want to get out of it, like what do you want to get out of becoming a vampire. He answered that to like Hatsuka and Nazuna. They all know where, and Nico and them all know where he currently stands, but he hasn't really had that conversation with Akira, who had never really asked that question, but Mahiro, but also like where does he stand in the grand scheme of things, knowing what he knows now, and also the Anko of it all. Like, yeah, there's a lot of elements to kind of consider. I'm excited to have season 2. Once again, luckily for me, I didn't have to wait like other people did, but I'm excited to see what this season has in store for us, where things go with Ko and Nasuno, also what other scenarios and situations they find themselves in. Like I said, the Anko thing is probably the thing I'm the most interested in, but also at the core of it is the romance between Nazuna and Ko, and just seeing how that story plays out. Obviously, when you hear this, this isn't going to go up until probably next Saturday, so by then, because episode 2 comes out tomorrow, I believe, at the time of me recording this, so by the time you hear this, it'll be like not this following Saturday, but next Saturday, because I'm just releasing these one at a time. And like, because I think the season 1 finale goes up Friday of next week, I believe. So I might, by then I'll probably still be releasing like the episodes one day at a time. Probably, maybe, I don't know. Like I said, so I probably won't, like, to everyone else, I won't be caught up until like the week after next. But I should be like completely caught up, because I will be watching everything, be caught up with everything in time. But yeah, really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.